Welcome to PD on the Go, the podcast that delivers bite-sized learning on communication, collaboration, and facilitation for busy teacher leaders. Tune in while you're in the car, on your lunch break, or making copies, and get ready to level up your leadership skills. My name is Mary Beth Anderson, and I'm joined today by my colleagues from the Office of Professional Learning in Fairfax County Public Schools.
And I'm Rebecca Hazelbeck.
Erica Williams.
I'm Hallie Case.
So last week we talked about listening as a top leadership skill. And this week we really wanted to dive into what are the things that get in the way of truly listening to someone. Because we know that it's hard to be present in today's fast-paced world and at school when we've got a million things to do. So Hallie, can you tell us a little bit about what are some of those things that get in the way?
Yeah. So I learned about this idea of listening set-asides, I don't know, probably 10 years ago. I took a course in FCPS called Cognitive Coaching, and the researcher behind that, his name's Robert Garmston, and in the course I learned about these listening set-asides, and they changed, I think, everything about the way that I listened. So there's he says these three things that our brains do when we're in conversation with other people. One is that someone's telling us a story and we make connections, and all of a sudden we're thinking about our story instead of what the other person's saying. And then we're just waiting for them to finish talking so that we can tell them what our story is. So that's one. He calls it autobiographical. The next one is someone comes to you with a problem and you know the solution in your head right away. So instead of listening, you just wait for them to finish talking so you can offer your solution. And then the third one is inquisitive, where your brain's just mired with lots of questions that you want to ask. So you're not really focused on what the person's saying. You're focused more on the question that you're going to ask when they're done talking. So he says that these three things are listening set-asides, and that when you increase your awareness of them, then it's easier to push them aside in your brain and stay present in a conversation. And I just think that is the smartest idea, because I feel myself doing it all the time.
Mm-hmm. And it's not something that it's like one time you learned it. You learned this 10 years ago, and you probably are thinking about it even today.
Like right now when you're talking. I'm like, okay, let me set aside. Yeah.
So the first step is being aware, sort of what kinds of things you're doing while you're listening so that you can set them aside.
That's right.
And we also have some learning that we've done together from Elena Aguilar. So Erica, can you tell us a little bit about how she thinks about those things that get in the way when we're trying to listen?
Sure. She calls them mental journeys, which is similar to what Hallie shared with Robert Garmston. But she says that we always have mental chatter that's going on in our minds, something that we may be thinking about as someone else is listening. So perhaps we're making connections, or we might be thinking about dinner that we have to prepare. And so what she talks about is pausing for a moment, being as present as possible. So being aware of it when it happens, and then doing your best to just quiet your mind and really lean in and listen to what the other person has to say. Yeah, that's what she says about them.
So she calls them mental
journeys.
So we've got listening set-asides, mental journeys. Yeah. Both of those things help the listener to be aware of what's happening while they're listening so that they can engage. Rebecca, what are some other kind of tips or tricks that people could really try so that they could become better listeners?
I think one that's super helpful is to try not to multitask. So when you're multitasking, we know we're not listening, because multitasking, it really isn't possible to be able to be typing on the computer and to be listening at the same time. So that whole idea of coming out from behind yourself and really leaning into the conversation and listening by eliminating multitasking is supportive.
Putting that aside. And I think it's okay to just say, wait a minute. And I actually just said this to Erica before we started recording, because we were talking about something and something else was happening on the side, and I was paying attention more to what happened on the side. And I had to say, wait, Erica, can you repeat that so that I can really listen to you? So I think it's okay to say that
Yes.
when we're talking
Absolutely.
with colleagues or even our family and friends.
Yeah.
It's better than pretending to listen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And covering it up because that's inauthentic. And I mean, we all can tell when someone's not really listening,
Yeah, we can tell.
right? And it doesn't feel good. It feels like, other things are more important. And so let me just stop talking because why would I even share this thing with you? Yeah.
There's nothing worse than talking to someone and knowing that they're not listening at all, right?
I know.
And how that can
And
break
we all
down
do
a
that.
relationship a little
And
bit.
sometimes there's urgent things that you're taking care of, and when you have that trust in your teams and in your relationships, you're able to say things like, "Can we come back to this conversation in 5 minutes? I just have to take care of this one thing right now."
That's true.
And normally people will be okay with that, just so that you can get whatever it is you're finished, and then you can come into the conversation and truly listen.
I think when you say can we come back to it, and that means that you're really going to be present with that person. So maybe it is to, when you're standing up, nodding occasionally to show that you're listening, repeating back something that they've said to communicate that you are right there with them. I mean, it could actually look like just eye to eye with someone to show that you're in it with them. And those are probably some tips that I typically use to try to show that I'm listening. And you all do it too whenever we're talking to each other as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. So really what our listeners can take away from today's episode is paying attention to where their mind is going when they're trying to engage and actively listen to someone, and being able to set those aside or kind of put the journey away so that they can stay present, avoid multitasking, get into rapport, so that they can build that relationship and trust with the other person. On our Instagram page, we'll plan to put the resource from Elena Aguilar and Robert Garmston about the listening set-asides and the mental journeys so that you can look back at that at a later time. But we want to really thank you for joining us today. We'll post those resources on our Instagram page at FCPS_PD, and join us for next week for more PD on the go.